Hi, I am here with Lit It Up with Rajeshwari Kalyanam, and you are at JLF. I think this probably is my last interview, and the interview I've been waiting to do for a couple of days now. Ruth Padel, whom I heard earlier also at JLF, and it's my privilege, and I'm delighted to be here with you, Ruth. And
thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here, and I've just launched my Beethoven book in JLF, so it's an extraordinary feeling to launch it here, of all places.
Amazing. So we'll be talking more about, rather if I talk to you about your earlier works, I think it will just go on and on. You've got such a big, huge body of work, but I think we'll limit it to your latest book, Beethoven. You have always loved music, and when did you think you should write a book, and that too a different, this is a biography of a different format. Can you please talk about that?
Yes, so it is a biography, but it's a biography in poems, and it came really out of working with a string quartet in London, the Endelian String Quartet, and I was commissioned to write poems in between an early piece by Beethoven and a late piece by Beethoven. So I wrote this, and it started like that, and then I went on and did quite a lot of different work with them. And then I thought I could maybe write a poem, write a whole book about Beethoven. And so I went to Bonn, where he was born in Germany, and then I went to Vienna, where he went at 21. And, I went to different places where he lived and so on. And so it rose out of that, really. But it also rose out of the fact that my father got us all playing chamber music. I was a viola player, the viola, which is a sort of larger version and a larger and deeper version of the violin, which was also Beethoven's instrument as a child. So I felt sort of identification with him, really. And I read about him. There is so much to read about him. There's so many letters, so many diaries. And it was very sort of unhappy life, really, in lots and lots of ways. He was always in love, but it never worked out. The woman went. He was very short. He was pockmarked. He probably had smallpox when he was young. But they all said he was too ugly, and he was a bit mad and uncouth and badly dressed, all these things that girls don't like.
Yes, and he fell in love, and then he was mostly rejected.
Yes, he was always rejected, always, yes. But it does go back to his father. Shall I read you a poem about his father? Because the father was extraordinary. He was a mediocre musician but he realized that his eldest son was a pretty hot shot, and he beat the music into him, basically.
Yeah, and for which I think the music stayed with him, but he never had he never liked his father.
No, it was very difficult. So this poem is called "If Your Father Damaged You," and it's for everybody who feels that their father in some way damaged them or hurt them, and how you get over it. Because Beethoven's life, in a way, is a history of somebody who suffers a great deal, and his triumph in creating art, great art that touches everybody's heart out of this misery, really. And yet, the interesting thing, is that he always ends his most heartbreaking music on a note of joy and hope.
So, please read the poem.
If your father damaged you, the way meteorites spin in, clustering on ice, bare shields of glacier burnished by wind, because your father is magnetite, dragging all the iron in your soul into his own force field. You seal yourself in. You need nothing but music. Your answer to obstruction will be fire. In the little hall of the house where you were born, the one original service is dark silver flagstones where you might have crawled. Light falls in shallow hollows of deciduous rubbed stone clogged with spume of cleaning fluid, where, I imagine, your mother carrying the shopping, your father staggering home drunk up these stairs, thou their new-cut wood polished to the amber shine of a harvest moon, to wake you in the middle of the night, stand you for hours on a bench so you can reach the keys. You cry as you play, slapped if you make a mistake. In daylight, he hears you improvise, splashing around, he calls it, on the violin. What rubbish are you scratching? Now, isn't that beautiful? No, you made it up. You're not to do that. Stop, or I'll box your ears. If your father damaged you, the way fierce winds scour glacier ice where meteorites have fallen from heaven, but He was the one who made you, beat the notes into you on the clavier, viola, violin. Your response to challenge ever after will be attack. You will need no one, only the relationship of sound and key. You improvise.
Beautiful. Now, when you recite the poetry, I think there couldn't have been a better biography than the poetic biography of Beethoven, because there was music in his life, there was tragedy. I mean, I think there can be nothing but poetic justice, it could be called.
Poetic justice, yes. Well, this is another one which is actually just this week being published in the New York Review of Books, and it's on Bonn, his hometown, because his father took him out of school at the age of 10, so he never really learned to add up properly. He didn't learn to write properly. His writing was appalling, and on his deathbed he was trying to learn the multiplication tables. Can you imagine? So he was earning by playing the viola in an orchestra. Bonn. Wherever you look in this town are painted casts of this famous statue. One at my door, like a street performer, silver mantle, silver eyes and skin. In the town hall information zone, he is lapis lazuli, face the colour of clear sky after sunset, body scrawled with white crotchets, a blizzard of musical snow. At the end of a street he used to race up laughing, leading the pack. I see the Rhine flickering like departure. Chestnut trees in a skirt of fallen leaves, and 6 immigrants asleep in an arcade. Where the house once stood are rows of little Beethovens stamped on marzipan. I see a small boy dashing through these alleys to play for early mass. Then, sullen, dragging his feet towards some grand door to teach a rich child piano. His brothers are useless. The new babies die. Father drinks his salary. Mother has a temper too. Dry bed and fury snap through the kitchen. Music is everything. A boy in his bedroom, seed in the ground. He's strong, but he's little. The heavy viola bangs his knees as he runs.
Amazing. So I was just also listening to you talking, and I was just hearing to the story of the most downloaded tune.
Few release,
yes. Which also it was a revelation for me that Ravi Kiran Chitravina, he has produced the same tune in Chitravina, very beautiful. So can you just tell us about what
that
you
story?
found? That
okay.
story, yes.
So he, when he was about 39 or 40, he fell in love with a girl whom he was teaching the piano to. She was 17 or 18. She was called Therese. And her father was a wealthy merchant and patronized the arts. And Beethoven, came calling often, and he sometimes plays music there, and he thought that the girl returned his affection. And he was very excited. His great friend was actually courting the girl's older sister. And he got so excited he ordered some linen so he could smarten up. He borrowed a friend's mirror for the afternoon because his was broken. Everything was broke. He broke everything. And he was terribly pleased because the family dog followed him home, and he felt very proud about this. He felt very intimate with the family. So he dashed off this little bagatelle, Für Elise, which became actually in the 90s the most downloaded ringtone in the world. He just dashed it off for this girl, and it was quite easy to play, so he thought she could play it. So we went off one evening to evening party. Then he thought that he carried it with him, and he thought he would propose to her, and she would accept him, and he would give her this bagatelle as an engagement present. But of course it didn't work like that. He drank too much punch. He got hopelessly drunk, and he didn't manage to do anything, but he did give her the manuscript, and she said, well, write on it. So he scribbled something. Well, her name was Therese. She put it away. She married somebody else, and when she died, so sort of 50 years later, it was found among her things, and a music publisher recognized the writing as Beethoven's. But he couldn't read it. It should have said Für Therese, but he read it as Für Elise. So that's how we have that manuscript.
Oh, wow. Such a beautiful story. But how about all the research that went into it? Of course, as a musician, you knew the music, but what about the rest of the backstory that you kind of somehow discovered? Of course, you have some beautiful poetry from the places that you visited. What about the life story?
Yes, well, the life story. There are tons of very large biographies. There's also immense numbers of letters. There's a little diary he kept when he first came to Vienna, and there's also a much larger journal he kept when he lost his big love, the immortal beloved. He kept that for about 5 years. And then there are endless letters, anecdotes. There are also conversation books. When he went completely deaf, he started carrying these rough books with him so people could write in them so he could hear. So I just sat down and read them all.
Amazing. So we'll just come back to the second part of the interview, where I would like to ask you more about the time when he went deaf, how tragic it would have been for a musician when he was at the prime of his career and he started not hearing, yes. And of course his connection with India.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much. So listeners, stay tuned and look for the second part of interview with Ruth Padel, and don't forget to buy her book, Beethoven Variations, the latest and the most beautiful book of Ruth Padel. Thank you so much.